I waited 40 years after Elvis's passing, and almost 40 years, and so I never wanted to be accused of capitalizing or exploiting my relationship with him.
At 75, Linda Thompson has finally broken her silence, and what she reveals about her years with Elvis Presley is nothing short of heartbreaking. For decades, she kept her memories locked away, moments of laughter, pain and love shared with the king of rock and roll. But now, her voice trembles with emotion as she opens up about the man behind the legend. So, what secret truths has she held all these years? And why does her story strike so deeply at the heart? This is her revelation. A chance meeting in Memphis. The summer of 1972 in Memphis shimmered with a special kind of magic. The air was thick with heat, the city streets alive with music, laughter, and the easy rhythm of Southern living. For most, it was just another golden season in the heart of Tennessee. But for a young woman named Linda Thompson, this summer would mark the beginning of a chapter that would change her life forever. That evening began like any other. Linda, graceful yet grounded, decided to step into a small neighborhood theater. To her, it was nothing more than a casual night out, an escape from the routine, a chance to soak in a bit of culture and entertainment. She could not have known that destiny was quietly waiting for her there, ready to redirect the entire course of her story. Linda was no ordinary young woman blending into the crowd. She had already captured attention across the state by winning the coveted title of Miss Tennessee. With that crown came admiration, recognition, and the kind of confidence that radiated effortlessly from within her.
I was Miss Tennessee. I was at Miss Tennessee University in 1972, and Elvis was Elvis. And I was invited to go to the Memphian Theater, which he rented out after midnight.
She was celebrated not just for her beauty, which was undeniable, but also for her sharp mind, her warmth, and her natural charm. Wherever she went, people noticed, yet beneath that elegance and poise, Linda remained genuine, grounded, and curious about the world around her. What she did not expect was to encounter a figure who was larger than life itself. That fateful evening in 1972 would place her on a collision course with none other than Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, a man whose very presence could alter the atmosphere of a room. For millions of fans, Elvis was untouchable, a global sensation who belonged more to legend than reality. But for Linda, that night was different. He was not just a star on a stage or a face on a record sleeve. He was a man, full of charisma and complexity, about to step directly into her orbit. The theater lights dimmed, but the energy around her seemed to glow brighter. It wasn't simply the performance unfolding on stage, it was the sense that something remarkable was about to happen. And when their paths finally crossed, Linda instantly felt the pull of a connection that defied explanation. It was as if two worlds, one glittering with fame and the other shining with promise, had been destined to meet. In that single encounter, an ordinary evening transformed into the opening act of a love story that would capture imaginations for decades to come. Linda walked into the theater as Miss Tennessee, admired and accomplished. She would walk out as someone whose life had been forever entwined with the king of rock and roll. Little did she know that this meeting would launch her into a whirlwind of experiences, moments of laughter, tenderness, chaos, and heartbreak that only life beside Elvis Presley could bring. What began as an unplanned evening in Memphis was, in truth, the beginning of a journey that would leave an indelible mark not only on Linda Thompson's life, but also on the enduring legacy of Elvis himself. The summer of 1972 was more than just warm and golden. It was fateful, unforgettable, a season when two lives collided and forever intertwined. But who was Linda before that encounter? Did she already have a story, a name that commanded attention on its own? Or did her life spotlight truly begin with Elvis? Let's find out. Beauty, brains, and a Southern charm. Long before her name would become entwined with one of the most legendary figures in music history, Linda Thompson was already a remarkable presence in her own right. Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, she carried herself with a combination of poise, intelligence, and charm that made her impossible to ignore. Her beauty was undeniable, yet it was not simply her looks that drew people in. It was the warmth in her smile, the quick spark of her wit, and the confidence that radiated from her in every conversation and gesture. She had a natural charisma, a rare quality that made friends, strangers, and admirers alike feel instantly at ease in her company. From an early age, Linda's ambition was apparent. She had dreams that stretched far beyond the familiar streets of her hometown, a quiet determination that propelled her toward opportunities others might have hesitated to pursue. Her participation in pageantry was just the first visible step of a journey that promised both recognition and personal growth. Winning the Miss Tennessee title was more than a crown and a sash. It was a ticket into a world that promised glamour, attention, and new possibilities. But unlike many who might have been swept away by fleeting fame, Linda remained grounded. She approached her newfound spotlight with grace, humility, and a sense of purpose, never losing touch with the genuine warmth that defined her character. Those who knew her often described Linda as someone capable of lighting up any room she entered. Her charm was effortless, yet it carried a depth that went beyond surface-level friendliness. She could listen intently to connect with people on a human level and to make anyone feel that their presence mattered. In her, charisma met authenticity, a combination that made her not just admired, but also deeply respected. It was this blend of qualities that allowed her to navigate the complex world of social expectations, pageantry, and rising public attention without losing herself along the way. At this point in her life, Linda was young, radiant, and standing on the threshold of what seemed like endless possibilities. Her path could have led in any number of directions: a life defined by accolades, social prestige, or the quiet pursuit of personal dreams. And yet destiny had a different plan in store, one that would intertwine her life with a man whose fame, talent, and personal complexities were unlike anything she had ever encountered. What began as a chapter of promise and personal achievement was about to expand into something far larger than she, or anyone around her, could have imagined. In pageantry, crowns, bright lights, and youthful ambition, Linda Thompson's life was quietly preparing for a transformation. She was about to step into a world where her presence, warmth, and intelligence would become not just admired qualities, but essential anchors in a whirlwind of fame, music, and cultural history. Her story, already compelling in its own right, was on the verge of becoming inseparable from a legend, marking the start of a chapter that would leave an indelible imprint on her life and on history itself. Before fate stepped in, Linda's life shimmered with endless possibilities, but the King of Rock was waiting. But what mysterious twist led to their first encounter? Now, let's dive into the unforgettable moment at a Memphis theater that sparked the legendary connection between Linda Thompson and Elvis Presley. The electric first encounter. The moment Linda Thompson stepped into that Memphis theater, the air seemed charged with electricity, as if the very walls themselves were humming with anticipation. Laughter, chatter, and the subtle rustling of programs blended into a symphony of excitement. Every corner of the room vibrated with energy, and yet, amid the crowd, something extraordinary was about to unfold. A meeting that neither time nor circumstance could have truly predicted. Then it happened. A spark, subtle yet undeniable, flared in the space between them. It wasn't just an ordinary introduction or a fleeting glance. It felt as though the universe had conspired to orchestrate this precise encounter, bringing two lives together that were, in ways both mysterious and profound, meant to intersect. For Linda, it was almost too surreal to grasp, the world's most famous rock and roll legend, Elvis Presley, showing a sincere and unmistakable interest in her. Not just a polite nod or passing acknowledgement, but a kind of presence and attention that instantly set her apart from everyone else in the room. Elvis, in turn, felt something rare, a quiet recognition, a sense that here was a woman unlike any he had encountered before. She was undeniably beautiful, yes, but there was far more beneath the surface. Intelligence glimmered in her eyes, compassion radiated from her gestures, and a grounded, unwavering sense of self gave her a stability that was rare in his whirlwind world of fame, flashing lights, and constant scrutiny. It was a combination he'd longed for without fully realizing it. A connection that felt natural, unforced, and profoundly human. As the evening unfolded, moments stretched and compressed simultaneously, creating a blur of sensations and emotions. Linda's heart raced, a mix of exhilaration and disbelief coursing through her veins. Every word exchanged, every subtle glance, seemed charged with meaning, as if a secret current flowed between them that no one else could see. For Elvis, it was a breath of fresh air amid the chaos of his life, a reminder that beyond the music, fame, and the endless crowds, there were still authentic human connections to be found, rare gems that grounded him even if just for a fleeting moment. The energy in that theater became a backdrop to something far more intimate and powerful. Here, in the middle of the bustling crowd, two people recognized in each other a mirror of desires, qualities, and a shared sense of life that transcended superficiality. Linda wasn't just captivated by the legend. She saw the man beneath the crown of fame. And Elvis, for the first time in years, saw someone who looked at him not as an icon or a phenomenon, but as a human being. Someone who could share laughter, conversation, and understanding. By the time the evening ended, the encounter had left its indelible mark. It was the beginning of a story that neither could have predicted, a connection that would grow, deepen, and ultimately change both their lives. That single spark, ignited in the heart of a Memphis theater, became the starting point of a journey intertwined with love, challenges, and unforgettable moments. An intersection of two paths that, against all odds, had finally crossed. That fateful night sparked a connection between two souls, altering their lives in ways no one could have predicted. But what became of their relationship after that unforgettable meeting? Now let's dive into Linda Thompson's intimate journey through Elvis Presley's dazzling glamour, hidden struggles, and the vulnerability few ever saw. Inside the King's world. What unfolded between Linda Thompson and Elvis Presley was far more than a fleeting romance. It was an immersion into a life that few could ever imagine. A world both dazzling and demanding, where love and chaos often intertwined. To date, Elvis was to step directly into the intense glare of constant attention, where every move, every gesture, and even every whispered word could feel magnified by the eyes of the public and the relentless press. For Linda, it meant living within the ornate walls of Graceland, a place that was more than a home. It was a living, breathing testament to Elvis's fame, a palace of both beauty and pressure, where golden records glittered on walls and the echoes of fans' adoration seemed almost tangible in the air. Traveling alongside Elvis on tour added another layer to the experience. While fans cheered and cameras flashed, Linda saw behind the curtain, the grueling schedule, the unending rehearsals, the constant need to maintain perfection on stage, and the quiet moments of exhaustion and doubt that the audience never witnessed. She wasn't merely a girlfriend enjoying the perks of fame. She became a confidant, a steady presence in a life that was as chaotic as it was extraordinary. When the dazzling spotlight felt too bright, when the applause faded into the emptiness of hotel rooms and late-night drives, Elvis leaned on her for comfort, for understanding, and for someone who could see the man behind the icon. Behind closed doors, Linda was witness to a fuller, more human side of Elvis. The laughter that could suddenly fill a room, the playful mischief that revealed his lighter spirit, the tenderness that few ever saw, and the deep, sometimes unbearable loneliness that fame had brought him. It was in these quiet moments that she realized the truth of his life. The man adored by millions still yearned for genuine connection, for someone who could understand him beyond his public persona. And in Linda, he found that rare combination of warmth, loyalty, and unwavering attention. Their relationship was not without its challenges. Living in a world of constant adoration and expectation brought its own pressures, and the line between glamour and reality often blurred. She saw how fame could distort even the strongest bonds, how the demands of a public life could clash with private desires, and how every act of love had to navigate the complexities of a life under scrutiny. Yet amidst these pressures, there were moments of pure magic. Quiet evenings spent sharing stories, decorating the home together, and creating shared rhythm that was uniquely theirs. Every smile, every gentle touch, every word of comfort became a testament to a connection that was both intense and fragile, thrilling and grounding. In essence, Linda's time with Elvis was a masterclass in understanding the human side of a legend. Their love became a dance, balancing passion with patience, joy with challenge, and public fascination with private intimacy. She lived the excitement, witnessed the struggles, and felt the profound depth of a man who, despite all the adoration and privilege, needed love just as much as anyone else. It was a story of glamour entwined with reality, of devotion tested by circumstance, and of a bond that left an indelible mark on both their lives. A tale as complicated, compelling, and unforgettable as Elvis Presley himself. Linda's time with Elvis uncovered the love, struggles, and raw humanity behind the king, leaving a story that lingers in memory. But what mark did she truly leave on Elvis? Now, let's explore the untold story of love, influence, and a legacy that shaped a legend. The lasting impact. Though their romantic relationship eventually came to an end, Linda Thompson's place in Elvis Presley's life, and in the annals of history, remained undeniable and deeply significant. Long after the whirlwind of their romance faded, her influence and presence continued to resonate, both in the private memory of those who knew Elvis personally, and in the broader story of a man whose fame reached almost unimaginable heights. Linda was not just another name in the King of Rock and Roll's long list of companions. She was a grounding force, a steady presence at a time when Elvis's life was a dizzying mix of adoration, expectation, and isolation. Linda brought to Elvis something rare, authenticity. In a world where almost everyone he encountered was influenced by his stardom, whether friend, fan, or employee, Linda was someone who saw him as a person, not a persona. She offered companionship that went beyond surface charm or public image, giving him understanding, warmth, and a sense of normalcy that had long been absent from his life. Those quiet, intimate moments, the simple conversations, the laughter shared in private, the silent understanding in times of struggle, shaped a side of Elvis few ever saw. To him, Linda was not just a girlfriend or partner. She became a confidant, a protector of his spirit, and a source of emotional stability in a life often defined by chaos and spectacle. For Linda, the years she spent with Elvis were nothing short of transformative. They were a whirlwind of emotion, excitement, and discovery, a period of intense love and devotion that also tested her patience, her empathy, and her resilience. Living in the orbit of such a colossal figure demanded strength, intelligence, and a keen understanding of human nature. It required her to navigate a life full of public scrutiny, private pressures, and the emotional roller coaster of loving a man both larger than life and deeply vulnerable. She rose to the challenge, giving her heart and energy to someone whose fame could easily have swallowed her whole, and in doing so, she carved out her own place in his story, a presence that would never be forgotten. After their separation, Linda went on to build a life of remarkable achievement and creative accomplishment. She became a successful songwriter, a published author, and a public figure admired for her intelligence, poise, and enduring resilience. Yet even as she forged her own path, the years with Elvis continued to shape her perspective, her artistry, and her understanding of love and human connection. Their time together left an imprint not only on her life, but also on the legend of Elvis Presley himself, revealing a side of him shaped by trust, vulnerability, and genuine human connection. Ultimately, Linda Thompson's story with Elvis is a reminder that the lives of icons are deeply human beneath the public glare. Her presence in his life added depth, warmth, and authenticity to a world often dominated by fame and spectacle. For both of them, those years remain unforgettable, a defining chapter in her life and a quietly powerful influence on the enduring myth of Elvis Presley. Linda Thompson's love, courage, and presence left an unforgettable mark on Elvis's legendary story. But was she truly his only great love? What about the other women who shared his life? And how did the king spend his final years? Let's delve into the details, the rise and fall of a legend. In 1967, Elvis Presley, already a towering figure in the world of music, stepped into a new chapter of his life by marrying Priscilla Beaulieu. The ceremony was quiet, understated, and elegant, surprising no one but still holding a magnetic pull for the public, who watched every move of their beloved king with fascination. The following year, their lives were forever changed with the arrival of their daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, a bright new star in a galaxy already illuminated by her father's fame. For a fleeting moment, it seemed like the Presley family had stepped into a real-life fairy tale, a picture of love and domestic harmony beneath the glittering lights of stardom. But the fairy tale, as so often happens, proved fragile. The pressures of fame, relentless touring schedules, and the unique eccentricities of Elvis's life began to chip away at the closeness the couple had once shared. By 1972, the distance between them had become impossible to bridge. They separated, and a year later their divorce was finalized, leaving behind a complicated mixture of heartbreak, cherished memories, and unspoken regrets. What should have been a storybook marriage became a cautionary tale of love tested by the unforgiving glare of public life. While his personal life was fraught with strain, Elvis's professional life remained magnetic. He left behind the silver screen, but the stage became his ultimate arena, where his energy, charm, and unparalleled charisma still left audiences breathless. The 1972 concert film, Elvis on Tour, captured him at a time when his presence was still commanding, his voice still stirring hearts. Hit songs like Suspicious Minds and Burning Love reminded the world why he was the king of rock and roll, even as chart-topping success became increasingly elusive. On stage, he was unchained from trends and expectations, a performer wholly himself, dazzling and larger than life, and adored by legions of fans who followed him with unwavering devotion. Yet behind the curtain of fame, a far more troubling story was unfolding. Graceland, the iconic Memphis mansion, became both a sanctuary and a gilded cage. Inside its walls, surrounded by loyal aides and companions who often told him what he wanted to hear, Elvis retreated from the world. Nights merged into days, filled with fast food, prescription drugs, and a growing sense of isolation that no applause could soothe. The same daring, risk-taking man who had carved his path to superstardom now lived a life of quiet fear, unsure whether his legendary status could withstand even the smallest misstep. His live shows, once electric and awe-inspiring, began to falter, and recording sessions slowed, leaving fans and friends to witness the gradual dimming of the light that had once set the world ablaze. Elvis's life was a study in extremes, overwhelming adoration paired with crushing pressure, artistic triumph alongside personal fragility. The king, who had poured so much of himself into music, into fans, and into those he loved, became ensnared by the very lifestyle his success had created. Tragically, on a summer night in 1977, the day before yet another tour was scheduled to begin, Elvis Presley passed away at the age of 42. A heart attack, hastened by years of prescription drug abuse, brought an end to a life as brilliant as it was fragile. He left behind a legacy that would continue to enchant millions. A story of dazzling triumph and human vulnerability that endures as one of the most compelling chapters in the history of popular culture. So, what do you think about Linda Thompson's revelation about Elvis Presley at 75? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.